Today, there's a new Pokemon game and Dead Island 2 has been delayed. What year is it? This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint. That break was a refreshing change of pace from immersing ourselves in video games for a week.
Agreed. Good thing nothing stupid ever happens in the industry during the middle of November.
Uh-huh. 5 stories this week.
I had to put 3 of mine into a roundup.
If I had $1 for every time Dead Island 2 had been delayed, I think I'd be able to afford one of Twitter's new verified idiot stickers, which isn't a lot of dollars, but weird that it's happened so many times. Even the developers say in their Twitter announcement that, quote, the irony of delaying Dead Island 2 is not lost on us, so that's good at least. If you, like me, that's nice, I like you too. But I thought Dead Island 2 had been fully canceled, like 6 years ago. No! Dead Island Epidemic, the MOBA, that was canceled in 2015, and Dead Island Survivors, the mobile game, that was shut down in 2020. But apparently, Dead Island 2 has been inexplicably trucking along for at least 8 years so far. After Techland, the developers of the original game, moved on to making Dying Light, a game they've already made 2 of since then, publishers Deep Silver brought Jaeger Development on board, fresh off their hit Spec Ops: The Line. After announcing Dead Island 2 in 2014, Deep Silver split ways with Jaeger only a year later and turned instead to Sumo Digital, themselves fresh off Little Big Planet 3, which is a bit of a jump from Spec Ops: The Line. But in 2019, Sumo was dropped in favor of one of Deep Silver's internal teams, Dambuster Studios, best known for Homefront: The Revolution. And now you're up to speed, or you will be in April after Dambuster takes, quote, 12 short weeks to launch a game they're proud to launch. Which is a tall order because the first Dead Island, for those that can remember 2011, was a game that was already in the unenviable position of having to live up to an all-time banger of a trailer, and simply didn't.
A lot of Pokemon news this week, so let's have a quick Pokemon roundup. If you like playing Pokemon Go, then you'll definitely want to buy the 24/7 Catcher, a clever piece of hardware that promises to take all of the drudgery out of playing Pokemon Go. You charge it up, connect the auto-tapping cable to your screen, and you can just let it worry about catching Pokemon, fighting at gyms, eating berries, and juggling your balls. Also, if you hate playing Pokemon Go, then you'll also definitely want to buy the 24/7 Catcher, because why fucking bother with playing a game when you can not play the game, right? The verdict is still out whether this thing can auto-tap your actual real-life ball sack, but we'll leave that discovery to our friends at buttplug.io. Buttplug.io! I'm not just a member, I'm also the CEO. Also, I'm not the CEO. Next story. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were released last week, and the reviews are already praising the eye-popping visuals. The new open-world format has brought whole new experiences to the Pokemon oeuvre, especially the addition of interesting new secret areas. The graphic fidelity is so good, you might just end up looking around and around and around. If you're interested in giving it a go, then hop on your bike and go for a ride down to your local game store to pick up a copy of the game Digital Foundry is calling a comprehensive technical failure? That can't be right. Everyone I've seen playing it has been sharing videos nonstop. Finally, if you're looking for a comfortable place to relax while playing Pokemon, why not use the skin of a Slowpoke that's been fashioned into a beanbag chair? It's the perfect place for young children to sit and dream of being a Pokemon trainer, eventually growing up and selling the skins of their captured friends to the highest bidder to pay off their student loans. $200 is a lot for this thing, though, so if you prefer to stuff it yourself, I keep finding deflated Snorlaxes on AliExpress for under $100, and at that price, you can fill them with the 30 spare bags of polyfill you've been keeping in your craft stash.
Yes, it's another Activision Blizzard story, but this one's really funny, trust me. As of January, they can't sell their games in China anymore. Okay, it's actually not funny at all for Chinese gamers, for whom World of Warcraft is still super popular, but it's very funny to me because I like laughing at when corporations sit on their own balls. Since August 2008, Activision Blizzard has had a licensing deal with NetEase to distribute their games in China, but the two parties were unable to reach a new agreement, with NetEase CEO William Ding saying the parties had, quote, material differences on key terms, which is a very fancy way of saying we couldn't agree on money. This is funniest if you anthropomorphize the two companies as a romantic partnership going through a breakup, with Activision Blizzard going the, no, I won't say single for long route, with President Mike Ybarra saying, quote, "We are looking for alternatives to bring our games back to players in the future," while NetEase is definitely on team, "I don't even think about you at all," as they said the loss of this agreement will have, quote, "no material impact on NetEase's financial results." Oof. Curiously, it gets even worse for Chinese gamers, as, I'm sorry to report, Diablo Immortal falls under a separate licensing deal between the two companies, and so will see a Chinese release in the near future.
Oh my God. Have you heard the hot goss? So Sony was talking to regulators about how Microsoft wants Sony to be more like Nintendo. I know, it's so weird because Microsoft wants to start hanging out with Activision Blizzard now that they've formed a clique with Bethesda and ZeniMax and Mojang. No, it's a soft J. Anyway, shut up. Also, I heard that Atlas and Arc System Works are super happy that Sega's acting a lot more like Bandai and didn't end up like Atari, because after Sega started going with Sammy, they really found their groove, right? They really bonded over pachinko. I just hope they can say something to Konami. Anyway, what was I talking about? Right, so Microsoft was acting super weird, and so I asked Nintendo what they thought about what Sony said, Microsoft said, because we're like besties, but they're so hard to get a hold of. I can't even text them. I have to fax them, which I know. I love that about them. They're totally retro. Oh, but don't tell them I said that, because the whole relationship's complicated, and retro is totally their own person, okay? What was I talking about? Right. So Sony is totally mad because Microsoft keeps buying a whole bunch of games, but doesn't want to share them with Sony. And Sony was like, hey, that's not fair. If you keep buying all the games, I won't have anything to play. And Microsoft was like, WTF, why do you even want these games anyway? They're not even good. But then Sony found Microsoft's diary, and there was nothing in it about Sony, and there was a ton of stuff about Nintendo. And I don't want to say Sony's jealous, but I mean, if you want Microsoft to pay attention to you, they pay attention to Nintendo, maybe you need to put yourself out there and maybe try some crossplay, or, actually start making some decent franchises yourself, right? Because Crash had 8 games, if I'm generous, and Nintendo's got so many IPs, they're even willing to make terrible movies out of them. Anyway, that's the bell. I'll meet you at the arcade after class, okay?
It's Sonic's 30th anniversary, and what better way to celebrate than by arresting his dad? Sonic's co-creator and director of Balan Wonderworld, Yuji Naka, has been arrested as part of a larger insider trading sting centered at Square Enix. Authorities allege that Naka and 2 other Square Enix employees who weren't fired as director of Balan Wonderworld and therefore are less funny to talk about, acquired stock in game development studio Aiming before Square Enix announced that Aiming would be producing the Dragon Quest mobile title Dragon Quest Tact, which is a tactics game and not a study in polite society manners, like not using privileged corporate information for personal monetary gain, allegedly. The other employees, Tasuke Sasaki and Fumiaki Suzuki, apparently purchased about $336,000 of Aiming stock, while Naka was comparatively conservative with a mere $20,000 allegedly. It's just wild when I'm used to North American corporate crime stories with numbers in the millions or billions, that not only did this guy supposedly only buy in for 20 grand, but that he actually got arrested for it. Great stuff. More as it develops, but in the meantime, I opened by asking what better way could we celebrate Sonic's 30th, and I suppose the actual answer would be releasing a new Sonic game that's instantly beloved by fans and critics alike, but we just can't have nice things, can we?
I still think about Sonic a lot.
It's hard not to. He's one of those guys who celebrates his birthday all year.
What do those guys do when the year's over?
I don't think it's ever actually happened.
Coming up, Peach's Castle from Mario 64 has been recreated as a playable deathmatch level in Halo Infinite's Forge mode. No word yet on holding control points with half an A press.
The second funniest part of that whole Microsoft Sony spat was the screenshot that you mentioned where why do you want these games? They're not even good.
Yeah.
Where where Microsoft has been laying out these things of like, look, people consistently say that Call of Duty, the other games are better than Call of Duty. And
Yeah.
it's like, come on, guys. Yeah. Some people say the games aren't great, but they still sell like gangbusters.
Yeah.
The funniest part of that, kind of by accident, is you're doing the bit with Sony being like, you have, Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
Right? Which
Is owned by
Activision. So now Microsoft is going to own Crash Bandicoot.
You have no idea how I was trying for like 20 minutes to try to write a line that would say Crash is like there's like maybe 8 titles, and besides they don't even belong to Sony anymore, or kind of the thing of like Sony isn't even returning Crash's calls, but is desperate to get Call of Duty, right? Like that kind of thing. And it's like, that's got to be a bummer for Crash, who like is under Activision Blizzard. I mean, it's always been, right?
Sony just never made a Crash game and it sold really well.
Yeah. Like I'm not trying to like hate on Crash. I'm just trying to be like the shitbag that I was in the early PlayStation era. That's the early console war shit. That's all I'm trying to do here, obviously.
Yeah.
But it just bad feels for Crash if we had a Crash Bandicoot outfit, we'd have to do some sort of stupid crap shot or something that's kind of laying this all out from Crash's perspective. But
yeah. Sony won't return my calls. I thought Crash 4 was really well received. What's going on? No. We're looking for, what's his name, Ghost?
Yeah.
It's the guy, the skull face guy from Call of Duty. What's that guy? We got to get that. And the other one with the mustache. This Crash is like, what's going on?
It's like, I ship those two, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Boy.
It's been 3 weeks, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah.
Turns out stuff doesn't stop happening just because we do Desert Buzz.
No, except that there have been so many weeks where just stuff stopped happening. And then we're like,
Can we just, can the games industry just agree that they're going to have all their slow news weeks
when we have our
overlapping with Desert Buzz, please?
That's all we ask.
Yeah. It's not much to ask.
No.
No.
But I'm glad for those who are unaware, which I'm like, wow, if you are not aware we do Desert Buzz for Hope, congrats. But man, we raised a lot of money this year.
Yeah. Over $1.1 million this year.
That US dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, every time the currency conversion thing came up,
it's like, man, I could almost buy a house in Victoria. Jesus. Wow. We're almost there.
I do recommend, this is a complete unrelated thing. I do recommend that you watch that Digital Foundry video if you haven't on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I was saying to Beach before we started recording that,
and I haven't seen it, by the way. But
oh, you didn't watch the video?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
It's worth watching, but they compare it to, they talk about the comparisons to, Breath of the Wild, which was a launch title for the Switch.
Yeah, 2017, right?
Yeah, or to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and the open world things that are achieved in that game. And obviously they wiped the floor with the new Pokemon titles. But the most damning thing is comparing it, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, to Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
Which was not like a graphical powerhouse, but looks so much better than Scarlet or Violet. And it's just sort of like,
and I mean, I've had my theories, right? Because it's like I spent a lot of time just talking at Heather about this. And so first up, it's like, clearly the team that works on Sword and Shield isn't the same team at Game Freak that works on Arceus, isn't the same team that works on, I'm assuming you would do the whole staggered team development, right? You have your mainline development team and you have your off development team. Yeah. Like you make your spin-off games.
Shield seemed
a lot
refined.
Yeah.
Like, I know that people have some complaints about like the story is like, whatever, but like the game
looks good.
Not open world, but it was polished.
Yeah. And you can probably assume that from Sword and Shield, that was like the Arceus team. This is my theory. The Arceus team maybe looked at Sword and Shield and was like, wow, there's some cool ideas. We want to actually go more open world. And so they started to do that. And when Sword and Shield was finished, they went to Arceus, who's already like 2 years in development, being like, wow, cool. Actually, we want to do fully open world now. So we're going to take a lot of your ideas and go there. And like, I don't know if they're using the same engine or not, but there's that idea of, well, why wouldn't you just go to Nintendo and say, hey guys, we are business partners on Pokemon. Why can't you just, like, can we have, maybe you don't even have the license, but can we just have the Breath of the Wild engine and then make it, I'm not saying click the little Pokemon check mark and hit compile. Like, it's not that kind of horse shit, but I'm just saying that, was there an opportunity for that, or what is actually going on at that level? Is it Game Freak saying we have to develop what we're developing because we Is it an internal engine only, or are they licensing something from outside? Like I don't really know the answers to those questions. Did they get a copy? Like maybe this is a copy of the Breath of the Wild engine, and we don't know that. Right? Like, there's a whole bunch of unanswered questions. I think so far, people will probably end up doing deep dives on to kind of uncover that, and I hope they do, because this is a royal fuck up. Like, this is never has Nintendo had a tentpole game launch on their system that they're supposed to be majorly involved in be this much of a clusterfuck.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch the speed runs of it, because there's a lot of clipping out of bounds.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say is that the Pokemon fans that are, which is not all Pokemon fans, but the Pokemon fans that are blaming the hardware, that's the silliest thing. When again, when you look at
all the other games
Breath of the Wild, which was 2017,
Yeah.
or Xenoblade Chronicles 3, or the other Pokemon game from 2022.
Yeah, or like Skyrim, I think, is native. It's not a cloud version, right?
Yeah.
So they got Skyrim running.
Dying Light.
Yeah.
That I mentioned in the thing. You can play Dying Light on the Switch.
Yeah. There's so many really large games, really large worlds, like that kind of thing that exist. And it's like, this is not the Switch sucks. This is something went wrong with development, and either they pushed it out too fast, or they panicked, or something else. I don't know what. I don't know why they had to see this come together the way it did. But I mean, I'm sure we'll hear a post-mortem of this in about 20 years.
Can't wait.
Yeah.